Hello, my name's George English. I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon. Do you wonder if you have a black sheep in your family? Someone who didn't fit in for some reason? Today we're going to delve into the intriguing world of family history research and explore the possibility of having a black sheep among your ancestors. Sometimes that may just be because of the historical and social context and the norms of the times that they lived in. At Research Through People, we've had the privilege of unearthing countless stories from the past, and in this video we will share some examples of such cases and shed light on the factors that may have led to what happened. So here we have Michael, a frequent visitor at court, and he's a minor, and here we are, first court case, and newspapers are so useful here. A little story here, him and his friend Alexander were each forfeited 10 and sixpence in old money for being drunk and incapable. Then him and a couple of brothers, again minors, out having fun, or from their point of view, committing a breach of the peace, and at 4 o'clock in the morning last Sunday. Again, another example where they pledge for using obscene language, and a bit of both here. Here's people misbehaving. Probably these days they would have got away with it maybe sometimes and maybe not, so that may be an ancestor who had that. Something we come across quite often is illegitimacy. So here we have Sarah. She's living at home with her family in 1841, but in the following year she gives birth to her son Alfred, and on the baptism record there's no father's name, most likely illegitimate. It doesn't actually write illegitimate, but it's a fair assumption. And her address is given as the workhouse. So she had been living at home, she's in the workhouse now. It could be she went there deliberately to have her baby. Something has happened in those days to try and keep a secret what had actually happened. Now, illegitimacy, you get some interesting things socially in different parts. In Scotland, in the farming areas, particularly in the Highlands and so on, they used to have what they called feeing out. They used to have feeing markets once every 6 months when farms recruited workers for their farms. And this happened until the later 20th century. And very often people would work on one farm and then they'd move to another. Now, if they were married, they would probably be given a cottage with their wife, but the wife would be expected to carry out work on the farm. A lot of single younger men, and there's what the Scottish word a bothy, a sort of a dwelling where a number of people could sleep, communal lodgings, a fire to cook their meals, bedding but pretty rough. Music making, folk music and so on, very much you can imagine them all together in the evenings. Music would be something that they could do, and of course, as well as young men, there were young women or girls who also hired as servants around the farmhouse. Now, what happens when young men and young women get together? Well, very often they get quite intimate, and it was not uncommon to find illegitimate children. In fact, an interesting thing with farm people, so important to have sons to take on the farm. Some men would actually deliberately get the woman pregnant to show that they could actually have children, different times, and we come across that so often. Now, bigamy. Here's John Lyles, and here he is, he gets married in 1810. Here are John Lyles and Anne Adams, both of this parish, 9th day of April in 1810. This marriage was solemnised between us in the presence of. The only problem was he'd already got a wife from before. Bigamy. So the sentence, 7 years transportation to Austria. Here's a sign of the times. Quite a common sentence for people in those days for a minor theft or something was to be sent to Australia for 7 years. And one of the things that happened was that they sent people to Portsmouth and perhaps other harbours, and they had old ships, prison hulks as they call them, and the people would wait on the ship until the ship was ready to take them across to Australia. Now here's a bit of the page with John Lyles' name on. You can see him down the bottom there. Look at the ages here. He's 33. There's a mix here, people, teenagers, 54, 48. So quite a mix of different people, almost all men. Now, let's have a look at the register. So here's when they were convicted. So here are 1810, 1811 and so on. Sentence, and you can see 7 years, 14 years, transportation, life, etc. Down the right hand column is when they were disposed of, when they went off to Australia? Oh no, every single person here died on that prison hulk. And look here, John Niles, so he's convicted in 1811, he dies in 1815. In other words, those people just got left on that prison hulk. The conditions would have been dreadful, but 4 years, people dying all around you. Wow, what a change to today, but that's what happened to him. Another situation, obviously, men and women, husband and wife often fall out. So here, William Pettit and Elizabeth married in 1866, they have 6 children. But from 1874, there's increased reports of drinking and therefore abuse. And 1878, the husband William petitioned and gave 17 examples of his wife Elizabeth of abuse and violence. There's the court case, and we look and research in all sorts of areas. So here we found the court papers, and it was the wife Elizabeth who was actually imprisoned in Tothill Fields. Here's Tothill Fields House of Correction. That's a term you don't meet these days. Again, a pretty tough regime. And soon after that, they divorced and they were separated. And unfortunately, that didn't work out, did it? And then we may get the sort of ultimate tragedy. So here's Jessie Martin. She's born in 1889. She's a teacher. She marries Ted Baxter in 1923. But he actually killed Jessie and their 8-year-old daughter in Edinburgh, murdered them. And there we are. What happened? Ted called the police to tell them what had happened. They arrested him. Well, and then there was a case, and here newspapers come in use. So here we are, Edinburgh double murder charge, insanity plea. And just have a brief read of this. So his plea was that he was a failure in life and he had to save his wife and child from an unknown calamity. And his insane plan had been suggested by a picture showing 2 female figures stretching their arms to the sun. He associated this with his wife and child and felt compelled to help them reach the light. I'm not going to comment on that. A medical expert said Baxter had been unsound mind for the previous 2 years, and the judge accepted the plea and he was imprisoned indefinitely. Very sad in all sorts of ways. So, I hope you found that interesting. If you want, we've made lots and lots of videos of people, ancestors from different places, London and Glasgow, ancestors from Ayrshire where I live. Taylor Swift is a distant cousin of mine. We've made a video about that. Surnames, we find the surname videos are probably the most interesting, or most watched. And what can you expect from having your ancestors research? Well, we made a special one where people talk about what they got out of it. So please feel free to get in touch. We'd be very delighted to hear from you. What we say, send us brief details of what you know about your ancestors. We'll have a look for free. And we'll come back to you then with the suggestions that we make and any associated costs. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for listening.